Hello and welcome to Qtr Time Podcast in partnership with Lovell Netball. I'm Lucy G.
And I'm Lucy P. And we're here to bring you all the netball goodness you never knew you needed. As listeners of the pod will know, we are passionate about netball and women's sport, so it's really disappointing to hear that 3 in 5 girls skip sport on their period due to fear of leaking.
However, our friends at Modibody have teamed up with Puma to launch their brand new super absorbent leak-proof 2-in-1 active shorts. The shorts hold up to 2 to 3 tampons worth of blood, meaning that you can wear them to stay active at any time of the month. And the added bonus is that they are super flattering and make you look like a total athlete. They even make me look like an athlete, which is saying something.
As sponsors of the podcast, Modibody are delighted to offer our listeners an exclusive 15% discount at modibody.com if you use the code Qtr Modibody. You can find all the T's and C's and the code in our podcast notes, so go check it out. Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to episode 4 of our Netball World Cup coverage. And today's episode is a recap of days 3, 4, and 5. So, Luce, how are you doing? You enjoying the competition so far?
I am loving life. I've got netball up to my eyeballs and I can't get enough of it.
As it should be, as it should be. So, do you want to let us know what's coming up exactly on the show today?
Yes, so as mentioned, we're going to review all the action from day 4 and 5 and bring you up to date with all the results from the competition so far. We're then going to reveal our Qtr Time Trio, so that's the shooter, midcourter and defender who we've been impressed with over the last few days. And finally, we're going to look ahead to day 6 of the competition and give our matchup of the day prediction.
Amazing. Oh, I'm really looking forward to this one. So the preliminaries 1 are done and dusted, and we're well into the second stage of the competition now. We're recording this at lunchtime on day 5. If you've missed any of the action from days 1 to 3, we covered everything you need to know in our live podcast, so you can listen back to that on Twitter now. Just head to @QuarterTimePod. So, Luce, do you want to run us through all the pools for this stage of the competition and where we're at with all the teams?
Oh, I thought you'd never ask, Luce. I'd love to. So, for Pool E, who are competing for 13th to 16th place, we've got Barbados on 2 wins, Singapore on 1 win, Sri Lanka and Zimbabwe on no wins. And then we've got Pool F and Pool G, who are both competing for places 1st to 12th. In Pool F, we've got Australia and England, who are undefeated. Malawi, who lost to England and Australia. Scotland, who have no wins in Pool F yet. Tonga, who defeated Fiji, and Fiji, who also have no wins in Pool F. And then in Pool G, we've got New Zealand and Jamaica, who are undefeated. Uganda, who lost to Jamaica and New Zealand. South Africa, who lost to Jamaica but haven't yet played Uganda. Wales, who have no wins in Pool G yet, and Trinidad and Tobago, who also have no wins in Pool G yet.
Okay, well, I think I'm up to speed. I feel a bit sorry for Wales because they have a really tough pool.
Mate, pool of death, I told you.
Absolutely. And before we get into our summaries, some huge news from yesterday. So New Zealand will play the rest of the tournament without Grace Nweke due to a knee injury, and she's been replaced by Tiana Maturo. And Denise Potgieter has also been ruled out for South Africa with another knee injury, replaced by Owethu Ngbane. Fortunately, both of these sides have been able to take their travelling reserves as they are here in Cape Town, but this isn't actually the case for all countries, so if an injury to a different country happened, they may not be able to have that replacement. But what are your thoughts on this situation, Luce, and how it will impact both teams?
I mean, first and foremost, my heart goes out to Grace and Lenise, like how absolutely devastating. But I think particularly for Lenise to have a World Cup on home soil and only be able to take part in 1 or 2 games, like absolutely devastating. And I think it's also quite a tough position for the shooter who's been brought in. And we saw a post-match interview with Tiana Maturo, who said, you know, I'm trying not to feel guilty about it. And it's really, really hard. But I wish them both well in their recovery, and the 2 new shooters who've come in, I wish them well in the competition as well. But I think it's going to be a big impact for both teams because it's both their starting shooters.
Yeah. Well, I think if any team lost their starting shooter, they would struggle, potentially apart from Australia.
Well, I don't know. In the form that Karakonen's been in, I think they'd struggle as well, but probably not as much as other teams, you're right.
Yeah, it's really difficult for them. And, obviously just sending our best wishes to both of those players for speedy recoveries. Obviously, Grace hopefully has got a few more World Cups in her. She's only young, 21, I think. Yeah. So, fingers crossed for her to come back bigger and better and stronger.
Yeah, but I just think... Noel said in the post-match interview, praise be for this rule being in place. Like
Imagine, 2 top 5 nations losing their shooter in the first 4 days of the competition. That would have been horrific if they'd then been down to 3.
And having to play with 3 shooters, yet England chose to play with 3 shooters.
We'll skip past that. Although Nat has been playing a fair bit of goal attack.
She has indeed.
Yeah. But anyway, let's move on to some of our game summaries then from day 4. So Australia on that day played Scotland and defeated them 77-37. And this was always going to be a pretty tough game for Scotland, but they played well, all things considered, and did manage to win some ball off the Aussies. Shooting percentage was down for them due to just immense pressure from the defenders, 70% at the end of the game, with Australia shooting at 90%. Australia's centre pass to goal was actually 85%, which is pretty difficult to stop. And JLP is a standout for the Aussies so far, particularly after not being selected for the Commonwealth Games last year. She is shining for the Diamonds.
Oh, see what you did there. Yeah, no, she's having a cracking tournament so far. Following this then on day 4, it was Zimbabwe versus Barbados, with Barbados taking the win at 62-45. And for me, I just thought Zimbabwe were unusually scrappy to start this game. There was lots of missed connections on court. There's about 3 incorrect throw-ins, which are just unforgivable. So those kind of silly errors really cost them. Barbados took advantage of this though and really put their foot down with a punishing 20-7 second quarter. In the post-match interview, the Zimbabwe assistant coach highlighted how the preparations for them from the 2019 World Cup and the 2023 were quite different. And now they're starting to suffer from a bit of fatigue. So it's something that he's actually identified and has been very upfront about, which is, quite interesting to see from a coach. I just really hope they can get a win on the board soon because they absolutely deserve it. Yeah,
I think so too. And, it is a shame given how well they performed last year, but it's a completely, new group of players. It's a new challenge for them. And, we'll just have to see how they go for the rest of the competition. Next up, we had Wales versus New Zealand, Wales being defeated by 83 goals to 34 in this one. And in summary, Wales were outmuscled by a fiery and slick New Zealand side in this game. Wilson was given the start. She shot 49 from 49 in 45 minutes, which is a pretty big statement. And she was moving well and combining very beautifully with Ekanasio. There is obviously a lot of pressure on her now with Weke out, and I think that is the combination that Knowles is going to go for. Tiana Maturo came on partway through the third quarter, kicking off her campaign like you mentioned. But I just think the Silver Ferns, they are so quick on their transition from attack to defence. So even when Wales did manage to win the ball, which was very difficult to do, it was then so hard to keep hold of it. Wales had a 40% gain to goal rate to New Zealand's 89%, which is quite stark. Nancy Cootie for Wales played both goalkeeper and goal shooter in this game, which I don't think we see very often, apart from Kadeen Corbin recently for Barbados. But personally, I think the goal shooter is where she shines best, although she can provide a solid GK option too. Yeah, her elevation is absolutely nuts. I've really enjoyed watching her. Following this, then, we had Fiji versus Malawi. Malawi took the win at 62-48. But Fiji started so strong. They went up by like 2 or 3 goals, but Malawi just said, not today, and then steamrolled their way through the rest of the quarter to have a 10-goal lead going into quarter 2. Wow. Fiji did bounce back at the start of the second half and actually drew the third quarter 11-all, which I think, given that they're ranked 6th and 19th in the world, like that's pretty incredible. That's a big win. It was also a brilliant day at the post for both sides, with an overall shooting percentage of 92% for both teams. Wowza. Go shooters. Next up, we then had Jamaica versus Uganda, and Jamaica took the win 61-49. Another confident win for them, but I would say it was a bit of a tale of 2 halves for me. The first half was incredibly dominant, tenacious, relentless, but in the second half, when the changes rang in, the attacking connections just completely broke down for Jamaica, and Uganda were able to turn over so much more ball. Uganda actually won the third quarter by 5 and drew the last quarter, so they won the half overall.
They only lost by 10 to New Zealand and now 12 to Jamaica. So, those aren't massive margins, Give them 5 years or so and some serious investment and they will be the next big thing, I'm telling you now.
Yeah, I actually think South Africa versus Uganda is going to be extremely spicy.
And important, actually.
Yeah, critical for both teams. Next up, we had Sri Lanka versus Singapore. Oh, this was a cracking game with Singapore taking the win 55-52. And there was only one in it at halftime after 2 real seesaw quarters to start the game. Both sides actually ended on equal gains and a very similar centre pass to goal rates. There wasn't much in it at all. Singapore just had the edge on game to goal percentage with 83 to Sri Lanka's 67. And this is the first time, I believe, that Singapore have beaten Sri Lanka since 2014.
Wow.
They lost heavily to them at the last Netball World Cup. And a standout performer was the Singapore goal defence Jamie Lim with 4 gains and 6 deflections, who also earned player of the match. Sri Lanka just seemed a bit startled by how plucky, resilient and composed Singapore were, particularly for such a young side.
Yeah, absolutely love that for them. And the post-match interview you did, the smiles on the faces were just something else. It was gorgeous. Next up then we had South Africa versus Trinidad and Tobago. South Africa taking the win at 69-28. And it was a big score margin for South Africa as we expected. And after the news of Lanise Potgieter also being ruled out of the tournament, I think they were no doubt looking for a kind of whole team performance to really bring them together and unite them. And I think it's fair to say that they did that in this game. We also saw the blood-in of their replacement shooter, Owethu Ngubane, although something I can't understand the logic behind is only giving her 7 minutes in the game when they were up by 40 goals.
Yeah.
I would have brought her on for at least a whole quarter, so slightly puzzled by the Plum's decision-making there. As if I'm sat here criticising the Plum, what is life?
Who are you?
But for Trinidad and Tobago, the general player turnovers were the death of them. They had 21 in the first half alone and then 47 in total. They really struggled to bring the ball through court in attack, which was evidenced by their centre pass to goal rate, which was just 38%.
Ooh, yikes.
Yeah.
Next up then, the final game on day 4 was Tonga versus England, with England taking a 72-46 win. And a 26-goal win for England is probably a true reflection of the experience levels of these two sides. And England had many more gains, 24 actually in this game. Liv shot 100% when she came on in the second half, and I personally thought the matchup between Gerrard and Cardwell was worth the price of entry. Fran and Imo also stood up, and I really felt that England were able to exploit some indecision on the side of Tonga. Huli Taveve wasn't afraid to muscle up against Imo and Jade, and I actually noticed in this game how good her change of pace is. We often talk a lot about change of direction, but I think change of pace is such an underused skill and it can be really lethal. And England had just 7 general play turnovers in this game according to the stat sheet, so that's a big improvement.
Yeah, there's so many talking points to come out of this game. I think Imo was a bit of a revelation for me in this game. I've really enjoyed how she's come on.
Yeah, I think her in centre is the way forward. Yeah,
I think it is. And then Jade, if you need someone to steady the ship or fresh legs.
So first up on day 5 then, we had Barbados versus Singapore. 55 Barbados, 50 Singapore. Another cracking game with both sides coming off confidence-boosting wins on day 4. Each team won 2 quarters, and Keneen Corbin shot 41 from 43 at 95%, which is super impressive. And it really feels like Barbados have found a settled lineup and they're just getting into their groove now. They've got Keneen Corbin back at goal shooter, which I know you're a fan of, Luce.
Yes, thank you very much.
And despite having 19 general play turnovers to Singapore's 9, Barbados just dug deep to win the final quarter by 5, and it's actually the first time they've won a final quarter so far in the competition. From a Singapore perspective, I've been really impressed by them. I think their matchup against Zimbabwe is going to be very spicy.
Yeah, I mean, potential game of the day there, because Zimbabwe are going to be gunning for their win. So, let's see. And then finally, it was Australia versus Malawi. Australia taking the win at 70-46. And what a game. We were losing our minds in the arena. I have to say, since Malawi have been playing Kumwenda at goal attack, I think they've made a noticeable improvement. But that being said, in this game in particular, there were definitely times that her lack of goal attack experience showed, as she was often caught either standing still or just generally not having a high enough work rate.
Being an option.
That entry into the circle was so important for a goal attack, and I think that's where she was suffering a little bit. But you have to give Malawi credit for this game. They caused Australia to lose their first quarter of the tournament in the second quarter, which they took 15-12. But it was Australia's superior fitness that kind of saw them through in the end, and they did dominate in the second half, which I think is to be expected, you know?
Yeah, agreed. And I mean, that second half was a bit of a steamroller. It's a shame it wasn't a bit closer, but I think Malawi can take a lot of confidence from that game.
For sure, for sure.
Coming up next, we'll reveal our Qtr Time Trio and look ahead to our matchup of the day from day 6. So, Luce, the Netball World Cup is here, and as you know, I simply could not be more excited.
Oh, mate, tell me about it. It's the biggest event of the netball calendar. And what better way to show your support for the Roses than by heading to lovellnetball.co.uk and picking yourself up some of the Roses fanwear?
Oh, of course. And I actually have this, okay, this is a bit embarrassing, but I have this weird superstition that when I watch England play, I have to be wearing some kind of kit, like a top or a hoodie or something. Otherwise, I convince myself that if they don't win, it was all my fault.
Oh my God, that is literally insane. But at least you and our listeners can get 15% off at lovellnetball.co.uk with the code NETPOD15 until the end of August.
Amazing. Happy shopping, guys. Let's take a look at our Qtr Time Trio from the last couple of days. Do you want to kick us off?
I do indeed. So as a shooter myself, I've taken the attacking option today. Honourable mentions to, you know what, it's actually so hard to select. There's so many people we could have gone through, but, you know, Kumwenda and Mvula having great tournaments. Talliard, although her accuracy is not quite there, her playmaking's amazing. Pallavi from Tonga, Chahal from Singapore, like so many options. But I've actually gone with our home bird, Helen Housby.
I'm sure she'd love being described as a home bird.
She shot 100% in the first 2 games of the competition. She shot 12 from 13 at 92% in half a game against Scotland. She shot 29 from 33 at just under 88% in 37 minutes against Tonga. Plus she has the joint highest feeds with Nat Metcalfe. So overall in the competition so far, she's shooting at 94%. And I think for a goal attack who has her level of work rate as well and playmaking, that is absolutely exceptional. And I think the reason that I also chose Housby is that we can't look past the fact that Nat Metcalfe has looked a little bit off pace in terms of that attacking unit, and there's been a lot of unforced errors coming her way. So I think Helen Housby's picked up the slack in that sense. And she's really stood up, and having come off the back of an incredible SSN season where she must just be knackered, but she's not showing it at all yet.
Yeah, completely agree. It's something interesting as well that they did in the Tonga game is Housby at goal shooter and Cardwell at goal attack. And I actually think that's the way forward for us. Because I think it's something interesting and different to bring on in the second half. And that could be the difference when we come up against the top teams of if they've started to figure out the combination, that we can get that movement going in the circle. And actually they've been playing so well and they do that switch. And it just means that the goalkeeper and the goal defence just half a second behind don't know what they're doing because it's slightly less predictable. So I think that could be the way forward.
Yeah, I definitely I think I'd probably bring it on at half time rather than starting with it.
Yeah.
Because I think I really like Cardwell in goal shooter, and I like it when she plays somewhat of a more holding shooter. But like you say, when you do switch them, it then becomes much more rotational. So it completely mixes it up. So yeah, I quite like that actually.
Yeah, exactly.
So moving on to our mid-court. Luce, who have we got?
So I've gone for Taekwondo Luwazi from Malawi. I knew you'd be pleased with this one, Luce. But again, honourable mentions to JLP. I think Sasha Corbin's done really well. Thandi Galetta from Malawi as well, the wing attack. But yeah, Luwazi has been a standout for me. She had 39 feeds in 51 minutes against Barbados, and that was the most on court by a pretty long chalk. She also had 3 games and 2 pickups, and then backed it up with 28 feeds in 52 minutes against Fiji, 29 feeds in 45 minutes against Australia, and 4 pickups. So stats-wise, she's doing really well. At the end of day 4, she was also 3rd for goal assists in the tournament. Now, what's interesting for me is not that typical for the centre to be the main feeder for the team, but it's just testament to how hard she works. She just gives and gives and gives again. And actually, if you look at her stats, the goal assists are where she's really leading. Yeah. So the feeds that she's putting in, it's not just that she's putting in a large number of feeds, they're actually getting the shooters in good position and they're well placed.
Yeah.
She's not the tallest at 165 centimeters, so only 1.5 centimeters taller than me. But boy, she can run for days and pick up ball from just her pure speed. I think that in general, she's so critical for Malawi, and she's one of those players that really goes under the radar.
Yeah, I could not agree more. Like her and Margaret Bagala are the two mid-courters who I'm just obsessed with at the moment. And I think Luazi just balances the court so beautifully. She plays with incredible patience. And personally, I am begging netball gods, hear me, please let her be picked up by an NSL side if she's interested in coming over, of course. But I would love to have her in our tournament.
Yeah, agreed. She is managing a knee injury at the moment, so
she was at the last one as well.
She was as well at the last competition. So I think it's important for her to manage that because she's so critical for Malawi.
Yeah.
So looking at our defender then, Luce, who have you gone for?
Well, our Aussie listeners will be delighted to hear that I've gone for Courtney Bruce. I think, honourable mention to my girl for Doju, but, we've already had Helen Housby, so I'm trying to keep it balanced. But yeah, Bruce, I think, has been absolutely outstanding so far. At the end of day 4, she was top of the leaderboard for interceptions and gains and 3rd for deflections. Like, that is nuts. And she's not playing every single minute, so that's with reduced court time. She had 11 gains against Fiji, 6 against Scotland and 4 against Malawi, but she's doing it so cleanly. She's not in the top 15 for contact or obstruction penalties by the end of day 4. So, a lot of people criticise her for a kind of brutishness, physicality, but actually she's being incredibly clean, and you can't really take that away from her. And she had 2 player of the match performances as well. Like, she is killing it. She's a threat.
I think she's a contender for player of the tournament.
Yeah,
absolutely.
for sure.
And I wouldn't put money on her not being player of the match in the final. That's how good she's looking at the moment.
Yeah, defo.
So coming up this afternoon, we have Tonga versus Scotland, Zimbabwe versus Sri Lanka, and Fiji versus England. Any of those stand out to you, Luce?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to pick one, actually. I think Tonga versus Scotland, I can't really call it. I think Tonga might have the edge, but I think that could be a really spicy battle. But also Zimbabwe and Sri Lanka. I really want Zimbabwe to get a win. I just love them so much. So yeah, those are the 2 that I've got my eye on. Fiji and England, of course, I think will be entertaining, but England should take it comfortably.
And interesting you mentioned that game, Luce, because the Fiji goal attack went down with an injury yesterday. Una Raluni, who we were raving about in the last episode. So yeah, fingers crossed for her. I hope she's okay. But looking then at our matchup of the day, which one have we gone for, Luce?
So we could not look past South Africa versus New Zealand. And the reason that we've chose this is because it is a crunch match. Essentially, if South Africa don't win this, then they most likely won't advance to the semi. So it's a do or die moment in a home World Cup. So that is primarily why it's our matchup. Yeah,
I mean, on form, you'd have to give it to New Zealand, really. But I mean, you can't underestimate South Africa. They have been known to pull it out of the bag at the last minute. And yeah, Noel's actually mentioned how they've got to come up against not only South Africa and Coach Plum, but the South African fans as well tomorrow. So yeah, really interesting and important game. Yeah, and I think, there's a few people for South Africa who I think have really stood up. I think Bongi and Somi, she's really kind of living like in the vibe of the home World Cup and the South African crowd. And it's just incredible. I think Pumza Mawani as well is I actually think she's kind of carried the load a bit in defence. I've been slightly underwhelmed with Carla Pretorius at times. Interesting. I think it might be an unpopular netball opinion there, but I think Mawani has been the kind of driving force of the Mawani-Pretorius partnership. Yeah, but I do think as well they are starting to get back some of the old vibes. And Carla actually said that in the press conference. I think it was yesterday that she said it's starting to feel like the old days with Pumza. Their combo goes way back. Yeah. And so if they can be firing against New Zealand, then who knows? But I think it'll probably go to New Zealand. Yeah, I agree. So thank you so much for listening to this episode of Qtr Time Podcast. As you know, we are bringing you daily coverage from the Netball World Cup with new episodes, live podcasts and social media content. So do keep your eye on our social channels for all the info you need, including our content schedule. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast and follow us on social media at Qtr Time Pod for the latest netball updates. Do get involved in the conversation online. We love chatting to you. So many of you have been in touch and it's amazing. Let us know what you think of the matches throughout the World Cup, which players you've got your eye on. We genuinely love hearing from you. We also have 2 more live podcasts coming up. The next one is Thursday, 3rd of August at 2 p.m. South Africa time. So that's 1 p.m. in the UK. And the final one will be Saturday, 5th of August at 8:30 p.m. South Africa time. So 7:30 in the UK. Guests to be announced soon.
Got some goodies in there.
Goblins over here. But anyway, we record on Twitter Spaces, so make sure to head to @Qtr Time Pod for all the details.
And finally, before we let you go, we'd really appreciate if you could take a moment to rate and review, as it genuinely helps other people to find the podcast. If you enjoy listening to the pod, do let us know and spread the word with your netball pals so that even more people can get involved. Don't forget as well to take advantage of our exclusive 15% discount with Lovell Netball by entering the code NETPOD15 at the checkout at lovellnetball.co.uk. You can get yourself some stash in time for the finals.
Exactly.
Yes. Take care, everyone, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.